It's time for the main event. It's the Shoe Shine.
¿Qué onda, vatos locos? Damas y caballeros, it's your boy Dave in the 702 coming back at you for that Monday night boxing recap known as the Shoe Shine. Joining me all the way from the city of brotherly love, Philly, Irish, Drew Evo. ¿Qué pasa, homie?
What's up, Dave?
Good to see you on a Monday night, Drew. Good to see you as always, man. And it was a fantastic, wow, was it a busy weekend? Let me first say thank you to everybody that watched my live stream on Wednesday, Drew. Thank you for coming in. I know you guys saw me get busy Wednesday at the MGM Grand for the live media workouts. And I'm so glad I went to go see that in person, Drew, because first of all, it didn't have the same energy that a typical David Benavidez fight had. Him being the co-main, a lot of people were like, where is everybody? Now, I know the event sold very well, Drew, but it was a good indicator of things to come. And I'm talking about David Benavidez versus Alexander Gvozdyk. I almost put $100 on Alexander at the MGM Grand Sportsbook that Wednesday. I am so glad I went and saw it in person, Drew, because after seeing that live media workout, I didn't think Alexander was going to pull off the upset. But really, what we're going to get to in that is, how was David Benavidez' debut at light heavyweight? Because a lot of people don't think, a lot of people on social media trashed him. We're going to get to that fight. We're going to get to Tank Davis being the most explosive lightweight in the division, in my humble opinion, and so much more. That being said, let's get right into the show, but because there's something that I really want to talk to you about, Drew. And shout out to everybody joining us. Wiley Coyote being the first person to chat. Shout out to you, homie. Drew, I want to talk about this on the Shoe Shine. Our good friend Gail Falkenthal of nyfights.com wrote a really good article because, you know, if you guys haven't heard, if a lot of fans that don't follow the sport very specifically, we've all seen the impact of Turki Al-Sheikh, His Excellency from Saudi Arabia, and the impact they've had on fights in the past year, putting together some of the most best cards. He's bringing it here. Riyadh season is coming to Los Angeles this summer. Some of the best fights have been made because of him. And now it's been reported by Reuters. Reuters broke the story, Drew, that Turki Al-Sheikh, and I want to get this right because it's actually an investment fund of the government. What is the name of that? Well, really, it's irrelevant. It's an investment fund of their country, is willing to put up $5 billion to buy everybody. And I mean Golden Boy, Top Rank, Matchroom. They are willing to buy everybody to create the ultimate boxing league. Yup, just like the NFL, just like Major League Baseball. They want to buy it all. And from what I'm reading, it would be a minority stake in each of these companies. So I guess you would still have a CEO. You'd still have Bob Arum. You'd still have Oscar De La Hoya. But the point is to get everybody to fight each other. But Drew, we got laws on the books. We have the Muhammad Ali Act that was written specifically to conduct the business of boxing in America. We've got laws to protect fighters. And we've never seen anything like this, Drew. And yes, the first thing I was thinking, and I wrote it on Twitter, was if it means the fighters can unionize, if it means the fighters are going to get a basic minimum purse guarantee, you know, like if I was an actor in Hollywood right now and I was a member of the Screen Actors Guild, For me showing up as a brand new actor, being a member of the union, I am going to get paid a minimum amount of money. But in boxing, that shit does not exist. You're an independent contractor. I said, this sounds great. And then now, the more that I think about it and reading Gail's wonderful article, dude, I got a lot of questions. They want to sign 200 boxers? There's 15 fighters in each division? Yes. They rank fit fighters. There's 4 sanctioning bodies, IBF, WBO, WBC, blah, 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 WBA. Everybody knows it's too fucking confusing to follow, Drew. But only 15 fighters per weight class? And then they don't really have all 18 weight classes in it. All right, well, that's not how baseball works. We got minor league baseball teams all around this country developing prospects, and they're unionized. Minor league baseball players get... I'm confused, Drew. I need your take on this. And shout out to everybody joining us. Wiley Coyote, Just Dwayne. Is this shit going to happen? Can it happen with the laws on our books? And what happens to everybody else? What happens to the amateur system? What happens to fighters that make the Olympic team and come out and they're not ranked top 15 yet? They just want a gold medal. What happens to those people? What happens to the likes of Pro Box TV? What happens to all the, Danny Garcia? Shout out to Danny Garcia. He just did his first promotional card this weekend in Atlantic City. What happens to the small promoters? Take it away, Drew. I need to know, does this shit have a snowball's chance in hell?
No.
You don't think it happens, huh?
Nah, I think you got to look at it like this. Guys are going to be selfish that they think, they got to keep boxing in America. First and foremost, and everything. But like the thing about it is, I don't think guys are gonna say, "Hey, I still make money off this. I still can make a steady income off of this. Why would I sell to you?"
Drew, I think you make a great point because right away, the first people I'm thinking about are the current faces of boxing, and the faces of boxing to me is Canelo Alvarez, who fights for at least a $35 million minimum purse. Then you got Gervonta Tank Davis, who again cemented himself as America's face of boxing. Fuck Ryan Garcia. Come on now. He ain't the face of everything going on in his scandal. We'll get to his bullshit behavior at the MGM Grand this weekend. And shout out to Sin City Syndicate. If you're in Las Vegas, I know you've seen him playing poker this weekend. I know Ryan Garcia's at World Series of Poker. Drew, those kind of people... Are they gonna go along with the league when they basically have their own promotional company themselves? Gervonta Tank Davis, by the way, Leonard Ellerby going to be taking over Tank Davis's promotional company. Canelo Alvarez has his own promotional company. Devin Haney has his own. Why would these people say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be in your league and I'll do whatever the hell you guys say"? They've already established themselves as stars, Drew, and it makes me wonder. Ohtani from the Los Angeles Dodgers got a $700 million contract. The whole thing says it's going to be estimated at $5 billion. Let's just say you want Canelo Alvarez to be part of this league. How much is his contract? You guys remember the contract he signed with DAZN for 10 fights that never with $300 million some dollars. They had to cancel that contract. Y'all think in the chat that Canelo Alvarez will go along with the league telling him what to do, who to fight? I mean, you can't force him to even fight David Benavidez, the number 1 ranked WBC contender at super middleweight. We can't force him to fight that guy. How are you going to force him to join the league?
I think the main problem is that I don't think it happens because I think the main boxers don't want to be told what to do. Don't want to be told
who to fight
and everything. And I think that promoters think, hey, they still got them under their umbrella and everything. They don't need to sell to nobody. They're not like Matchroom, Queensberry. They're nowhere near close to bankrupt or going broke with anything. PBC's another story and everything. They're the likely candidate to sell, but they should. But Al Haym's too proud and wants to do shit to another network and everything. But I think Bob still got that deal with ESPN and everything. I don't think that he's in the mood to sell either because he can still make good fights. And he's still making money and everything. And the production at ESPN, I think Bob's gonna stay in business until he kicks the bucket.
Oh,
and everything, unfortunately. But,
and God bless Bob Arum, dude, in his mid-90s, almost mid-90s. He's 94, I believe, and still doing what he loves, traveling the country, traveling the world.
Oscar could be a candidate to sell too and everything, but I think Oscar, he loves being in the spotlight, man, too much to sell.
Now, it's said that he could reportedly take a minority role, Drew, but I do believe Oscar, like last year, we talked about on the Shoe Shine, he said he was willing to sell Golden Boy. And he's selling his house. I mean, he just moved in. What is it? What won't Oscar sell?
Here's the thing. He's gonna have they're gonna have to buy Bernard Hopkins out too, because Bernard is a shareholder of Golden Boy and everything. So he would have to not only buy Oscar out, he have to buy Bernard Hopkins out. So if we that's another story. That's another story, But I just don't see. I just don't see it happening. I think a lot of guys are saying, "Hey, we got control of a lot of shit. We don't want to give up that control yet."
Yeah.
Now, you want to help us make the big fights? Go ahead and do it. But tell you the truth, we make money off these sanctioning bodies too, and everything. So, I think from a business standpoint, for these promoters, be a mistake to sell right now. Like, some of them shouldn't be ready to cash out yet because they're young still and everything. I can understand doing the mid-50s or 60s. Yeah, go ahead. Sell your shit. And live the rest of your retirement. But tell you the truth, you're still making profit on what you're doing. Do what you do.
Drew, yeah, exactly. Hey, Drew, the devil's always in the details, so I'm going to reserve my final judgment for more facts to come out regarding this potential sell where everybody's just going to sell themselves to the Saudis. But Sin City Syndicate brought up a really good point in the chat. He says the UFC is the framework for a thrilling business. I myself feel that it is inspired by the model that Dana White has created in the UFC. But the one thing the UFC doesn't have to subject themselves to are the two laws, the Muhammad Ali Act, that are on the books to basically run the sport of boxing in the U.S. and how things are conducted. The UFC is a monopoly. They don't have to follow those laws that were written in Congress. So I don't still see how they could skirt U.S. law. That's going to be a main issue here, Drew. But I'm going to propose something different, guys. And let me know what you guys think. Is this ever going to happen? Drop a comment here or after the show. But Drew, here's what I think the Saudis should focus on. I think they should buy all 4 sanctioning bodies. That's it. Spend the money on the sanctioning bodies, because then you'll still let promoters farm, scout, develop prospects and contenders. But if you only have one sanctioning body that isn't corrupt, then there's only 15 ranked fighters, period. So who cares where they come from? If you want to fight the champion, there's only one champion, and that would ensure that the best fight the best. With 4 weak, well, some of them are great, some of them are weak, whatever you want to say. You never get. Sometimes you get a guy holding a title who's like, nah, I'm not going to. Remember, you guys remember Lucien Boutet when he was reigning champion? He didn't want to fight. He didn't even want to fight in the Super 6 tournament. He's like, I'm good. I fight in Canada. I got my title. Just let me fight the weak-ass fighters in this sanctioning body that are ranked here, there. And he held on to the title forever, right? If you have one sanctioning body, that would do a lot. That would do a lot to fix this sport. But as it is right now, we will remain interested in this story, and I'll keep you guys updated on the Shoe Shine if we hear of any developments in this case. And again, let me know what you guys think. That being said, any final thoughts on that, Drew?
I just don't see nothing happening. And like with the sanction, I don't even think the sanction bodies are gonna want to sell. Like, there's just so much money to be made. Why sell now? And over time, you're making that in a couple of years.
Apparently, they're willing to spend $5 billion to make something like this happen. If you could buy the sanctioning bodies for $1 billion, $250,000 a piece, then basically you're controlling the sport of boxing without owning all of it. So that's just my thoughts on it, man. It was an exciting weekend, Drew. Obviously, we had the big fight at the MGM Grand here in Las Vegas. Shout out to all of those that attended. I did not. I got to watch it comfortably in my air-conditioned house. And obviously, there was that fight in Puerto Rico. But there was another fight I just want to touch on briefly, Drew. The UK fights. There's a fighter I'm interested that's making a lot of controversy, guys. And he's a light heavyweight. The light heavyweight division, obviously, Dimitri Baturbiev is waiting to get healed. And David Benavidez made his debut this weekend. But there's a UK fighter that is so divisive. Y'all got a lot of people on social media on X talking about him. And his name is Ben Whitaker. And why is Ben Whitaker so interesting, Drew? First of all, his Nigerian opponent headbutted him this weekend in between rounds, which was clearly grounds for disqualification. The fight went on for a full schedule, 10 rounds. So this isn't a guy who's a prospect fighting 6 or 8 fights. He's a former Olympian. He's an Olympian, but he reminds everybody of Nassim. The legendary fighter of Nassim. We all know what happened to Nassim when he finally came to the U.S. Why is Ben Whitaker so divisive, Drew? Did you watch him fight this weekend?
Yeah, and I enjoy watching him fight.
Okay, I enjoy watching him fight too. I enjoyed watching Nassim fight. At some point, it gets kind of clownish. It can become too much, especially when you know you're fighting some kind of weak, fringe fighters like the Nigerian fighter. That dude had all the right to be frustrated, but the headbutt him, that shit was grounds for disqualification and maybe even a suspension. If the UK British Boxing Board of Control, whatever they're called, I think he probably should have been suspended for this fight. Maybe he will be eventually, but he is a solid light heavyweight prospect going into contender status, Drew. And I'm gonna say some shit right now. I'm gonna say this right now. If David Benavidez can't beat a guy like Ben Whitaker, okay, and this fight would, I'm telling you guys, this fight in the U.S. would do very well because he is the modern day Nassim and he's a light heavyweight. He can come to the U.S. He should be clamoring to fight somebody like David Benavidez. Unfortunately, David Benavidez is now the WBC ranked whatever interim champion. If David can't do what Mexican fighters like Barrera did to Nassim, remember, he's the Mexican monster. If he can't touch Ben Whitaker, then pardon my French, but how the fuck is he going to touch Dimitri Bivol at light heavyweight? If you can't land a punch and cut off the ring and break down this clown, Ben Whitaker. Now, I'm saying that sparingly. I'm just saying that. I'm not a clown. I enjoy watching him fight. But if David Benavidez can't do what Barrera did to Nassim, then how the fuck are you ever going to knock out or touch Dimitri Bivol? How are you going to take over the division? Dimitri Bivol is a master of defense, master of distance. He moves an inch and you miss. Ask Canelo Alvarez. If you can't beat this guy, then how are you ever going to be the guy at light heavyweight? That's my thoughts on Ben Whitaker. I'm surprised Drew like him. Do you guys know who he is? Go watch his highlight reel. Do you think he deserved to be headbutted?
I gotta say something. I got like me and him like a couple of things. Both like the same things, some of the same things. But like, I like the way that he fights. Like, even though he's fighting soft touches and everything, he's doing that, and I think someone's bound to make him step up and everything. But the dude's skilled. But like, I don't think he's on the level yet to fight a Benavidez. But let's look at it like this. Are we on the topic of Benavidez or not?
Yeah, we're gonna let's do it because Ben Whitaker is the perfect segue. Let's get right into the MGM fight, and then we're gonna end the show talking about obviously the boogeyman at 140 pounds getting embarrassed by Paro. So let's go right into the co-main event at the MGM Grand. We have David Benavidez, the former 168-pound champion. Drew, I saw him work out on Wednesday. I thought he looked fast and explosive, but I let the chat know. I said, I don't know what he looks like when he takes his shirt off. I don't know what kind of physical conditioning he's in. And that's really going to be important, what he looks like on the scale on Friday. And Drew, Alexander Gvozdyk, for a 37-year-old, looked incredibly shredded. He looked like the best physical condition I've ever seen the guy. Not that it matters ultimately everything. It doesn't. And David Benavidez was soft around the midsection. And I think it had an impact on his conditioning. I'm finding we're all hearing today David made some sounded like excuses that he's got some
He
hand.
didn't make excuses.
He's got
No
hand.
excuse.
He's saying he's got some hand injuries, that he almost didn't make it to this fight, but he showed up. His hands are in bad shape. Okay, let's be clear about something, guys. When he looked shredded at 168, he had Memo Heredia. Everybody, if you don't know who Memo Heredia is, he's a whistleblower for the feds involved in the steroid scandals. He is one of the best strength and conditioning coaches still to this day in the business. This is where why do I even care what Victor Conte says? Because Victor Conte is a fucking expert. And so is Memo Heredia, even if Memo Heredia was a rat. He is one of the best physical strength and conditioning coaches in the business. And he says, c'est la vie, apparently, to David Benavidez. And he was on his own, making 175. I'm going to ask you, Drew, does it look like he put on 7 pounds of muscle? Because to me, it kind of looked like, and I hate to say this, guys, but it looked like David Benavidez said, well, that's 7 pounds of water and fat I don't even got to bother to lose, which means, yeah, maybe I don't need to do as much cardio. Because did you guys see it the way I saw it? He had a fantastic start. He was throwing everything with power. Everything was a power shot at the beginning, first 6 rounds of that fight. But it really wasn't. And Gvozdyk, Alexander Gvozdyk, didn't look like he was in any immediate danger or that he was really hurt at any point. And then it just seemed like, damn, David Benavidez shot his load in 6-7 rounds, which
Pause. You said shot his load. Pause, bro.
Figuratively speaking. Hey, loaded handgun. Everything was with power. And then I saw his mouth just gasping for the rest of the fight. So a win is a win. We just saw Sandor Zayas win against a former world champion. Alexander Gvozdyk is the former world champion. Do we give him a B? Do we give him a C? Do you give the guy an A? He didn't knock him out, but he again, Alexander Gvozdyk's only been stopped by Beterbiev. What kind of grade do you give him? Are people being too rough? What is Drew's take? Since Eddie Kinder says that's not light heavyweight power. Did the power carry?
C.
A C.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna say this. People need to fucking stop saying that he did good and everything. No, he didn't. How can you say someone did good in a fight where he gassed out after 4 rounds? And if you can't see that at the 4 rounds, the motherfucker was breathing out his mouth heavy as shit. I don't know what the fuck you guys were watching. That motherfucker was breathing out his mouth heavy as shit after the 4th round and on. His output dramatically dropped, and he was getting tagged. He was getting countered. Gvozdyk was back in the fight and everything. I had the fight 8-4 Benavidez. You could have given 7. You probably could have given 7-5 if you won the early rounds. But if you look at it, he looked like shit.
Interesting. Hey, shout out to Chicano Prophet. Shout out to Nerd. Drew, I'm going to put up this CompuBox numbers because it's a little bit misleading here, Drew. In the first round, he threw 40 punches. And in the 12th round, Benavidez threw 42 punches. But somewhere around round 6, you see the output drop to 39. Round 7, 41. Round 8, 38. 5 or 6 punches less. In round 10, he threw 48, which was more than round 1. It was close to his output at number 2. It doesn't look like on the CompuBox like he really stopped throwing as many punches, but everybody here can attest who watched the fight that it looked like he dropped off dramatically in the second half of the fight. Shout out to Jose El Compita, my boy from Urban AZ. Make sure you guys check them out on YouTube. It looked like he slowed down big time. It looked like his cardio wasn't ready for this weight division.
When he was throwing those combinations, a lot of those punches weren't landing. They were hitting glove, they were hitting arm. They wasn't landing on him flesh. And the thing about it is, he was getting countered easily, and he was getting tagged easily. He couldn't hurt Gvozdyk at all. He could not hurt him. And I'm gonna be honest. Let's be honest. People are saying that he looked good. Stop. He did not look good. He looked bad. He went all out in 4 rounds thinking he was going to knock this dude out. And he didn't. He couldn't even hit him. He couldn't even hurt him. That was the issue. You couldn't hurt this dude. And then this dude came back when your punch out dropped and he started round on you. Benavidez was hurt a little bit in that fight. He took a big shot and it kind of winded him a little bit. I'm gonna say this right now, man. Like I said this before. He's not gonna be able to this is a division where the guys have great footwork, that can move, that can box, that have knockout power. He is not beating the cream of the crop of this division. He's not. He's not beating Benavidez. Doesn't matter how old he is. He's still not beating him. He's not. Demetrius Bivol, let's put it out there right now. I put a tweet out earlier this morning today. David Benavidez is easy work to Demetrius Bivol. Easy work. Easy. So fucking easy. He can probably beat him with one hand tied behind his back. That's how easy it is.
My goodness.
And I really, and let's put it up there right now. He ain't want no part of this other dude in 168, David Morrell. David Morrell stops him. I think Demetrius Bivol stops him.
Well, I'm glad you brought up David Morrell. And shout out to Addy Medi and everybody just joining us, my homeboy Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Great boxing channel here on YouTube. Addy Medi says Benavidez does not want that Beterbiev smoke. And I have to remind you guys, Alexander Gvozdyk's long layoff was a result of being stopped by Beterbiev. But up until the time of the stoppage, he was winning on the scorecards. So he was actually winning that fight, and Beterbiev's power changed that fight. Now I'm going to ask you guys, does David Benavidez have that game-changing, fight-changing power at light heavyweight? And what we saw this weekend, I'm questioning it. Again, hey, shout out to my boy Jose El Compito, who says, hey, I know we don't want to make excuses, but he does say he has hand injuries. Drew, if he has the type of hand injuries that Paulie Malignaggi suffered in his career, then he himself today, I read, said he's going to need to take a few months off. So he's not making any promises. He's saying, I could go back to 168. He's leaving that door open in case Canelo comes to his senses. Maybe Canelo gets that big $150 million offer he's waiting for.
You know what? I gotta say something. He's making excuses. I'm gonna say this right now. You don't have the right to make excuses, dude. You wanna know why you don't have the right to make excuses? Why your performance and everything? Because you got injured before the fight. You got injured during training camp. And what happened? You still fought. Those excuses out the window because you still fought. That's your problem. That's not, you stop using excuses, dude. You look like shit because you look like shit. And you boxed the wrong, and you fought him the wrong way. And it almost cost you. Like, tell you the truth, you fought against a guy that came back after a 3-year layoff, and you were his third fight back. And the dude did it and barely went 5 rounds in both of his other fights. And you're you're trying to make excuses because you look like shit against him? No. You don't get that opportunity to make excuses like that because you got hurt in training camp and you still fought the dude. So those excuses are out the fucking window. And for him to bring up excuses like that, that's fucking weak. I don't give a fuck.
Well, Jose Ocupita makes a great point. There's a couple of takeaways from this fight that are very important, and Jose's brought this one up. And that's the fact is, did we see David Benavidez dominate at super middleweight because he was a weight bully? And I talked to Drew this weekend, and I'm like, I'm starting to see a little bit of that Devin Haney. That Devin Haney had all the success at lightweight and at 140 because he's coming in 25 pounds over the guy. So Jose says Benavidez used to being the bigger guy, but not at light heavyweight. And he only rehydrated to 186 while others go back up to as 200 pounds. He was the smaller guy against Alexander Gvozdyk. And against a whole bunch of guys, he's going to be looking at guys his own height and size. What was that? There was a guy from that just fought Dimitri Bivol and gave it the best, 4 or 5 rounds we've ever. That dude was cracking, the Libyan fighter, Drew. David Benavidez.
I don't think he beats him either.
David Benavidez needs to fight that guy and show us, can you knock this dude out? Because Dimitri did it. Dimitri knocked out this guy coming guns blazing. That guy's like 6'3", the Libyan fighter. Also, I just mentioned Ben Whitaker. Ben Whitaker, hey, that guy's pretty damn flat. Can you beat that guy? Who can you beat I don't know if he's ready. He did get the WBC interim title. He is in position to fight Dmitry Bivol, but I just don't think he's ready for it, man. I think he's setting himself up to lose just like Canelo did.
Here's the thing, Dave. He never had game-changing power because the thing that benefited him was his volume and everything. He never knocked nobody out with one punch. He never really, knocked somebody out cold. He fucking stopped doing combinations and everything. He was like a Triple G guy, like how he stopped guy with combinations and everything, volume. Dude, and tell you, the dude never had game-changing power. And you're in a bigger division now. You don't have the game-changing power in this division. You tell you the truth, you couldn't even hurt the dude. You couldn't even hurt a guy like Gvozdyk and everything. It's just, this is what I kind of expected. And I said it before that fight. David's not going to win. Is not going to win a title in this division. David's not going to dominate this division. David does not beat the cream of the crop of this division. And I'm going to say this right now. David Benavidez does not beat Canelo Alvarez. I see it after, if they fight at 175, I think Canelo beats him. I think if they fight at 168, I think Canelo stops him at 168.
Well, thank you.
You're bringing them back down. Mm-hmm. You're bringing them back down in weight, and you see that how that wasn't muscle at 175. It's more like fat a little bit, and he's going to be drained. This is a drained David Benavidez, and you're going to go for the body because, tell you the truth, his body's the weak point.
His body looked kind of soft on Saturday. I'll always agree with that. Remember, guys, David Benavidez is a kid that he's a young man, but when he was a teenager, he weighed as high as 250 pounds. And I'm Mexican, Drew, and there's a thing about Mexican body types. Most of us have we carry a lot of upper body fat, especially like you guys remember Josecito Lopez. He always had a little bit of love handles, but he was skinny. I've always been that kind of kid too. I was a fat kid. And so no matter how much weight I lose, I always have subcutaneous fat. And I think that's the deal with David. But he always looks soft around the body. And if some of you guys are putting this is a really important point. And Drew, thank you for touching on it. Did he look vulnerable enough this weekend? Did he do it intentionally or unintentionally to the point where Canelo Alvarez is going to say, you know what, man? Thank you. We got the intel we needed. You fought my guy, Alexander Gvozdyk. He's managed by Reynoso. And now I know enough to beat you, whether I fight you at 168 or maybe you do pick up the title at 175 and I come up to 175. But now I know I could beat you. Do you think either by his own genius, inadvertently or inadvertently, he looks like he looks beatable. He don't look like the monster so much, right?
Yeah, he's beatable. He's very beatable. If you look during that fight, like the second half of that fight, Benavidez's hands was down to his body, guarding that body and everything, man. Like he didn't want to take a shot to the body. He took a shot to the body one time. One time I saw him take a body shot, and it hurt him. It kind of hurt him a little bit and everything. Like I just don't think he beats. I think he's easy work for Demetrius Bivol. I think Beterbiev, catches on and stops him. I think Bivol stops him. I think David Morrell stops him too. I think David Morrell is someone that can really do the same as Bivol does, but he has the one-punch knockout power. And
okay. Well, we don't know if it's going to carry. I appreciate you bringing up David Morrell, and I appreciate the chat, Addy Medi, for bringing up David Morrell, because I am anxiously awaiting. Obviously, David Morrell was the WBA interim champion. He was someone that wanted to fight David Benavidez, and David Benavidez didn't seem to have any interest in that fight. And now, hey, we're waiting to see what David Morrell does against Hot Rod, right? I can't even pronounce the guy's name, but Hot Rod is on a winning streak. He looked fantastic in pro box. He's also 6'3". So David Benavidez isn't going to have the luxury of fighting short dudes anymore. He's got to fight guys that are 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", even taller maybe. And I'm actually waiting to see what David Morrell does in his debut of light heavyweight. Does David Morrell stop Hot Rod? Now, Hot Rod ain't a former world champion, but if David Morrell not in his debut at light heavyweight knocks out a legitimate light heavyweight, you got to scratch your head and wonder, is David Benavidez going to duck David Morrell at this division too?
Oh, I think he is. And I really think he will. But I'm going to look at it like this. I think Morrell's going to fight somebody before David Benavidez does.
You think he gets a crack even though he's not a mandatory?
I don't think, here's the thing, I don't think they're going to advise David not to take the fight with Bivol or with the winner of Bivol versus Benavidez. I think they're going to advise David.
Tell him and say he's not. Yeah, you're not ready, bro. You're not. We don't want to set you up to lose. Maybe take a tune-up fight. Maybe take up another fight against somebody that's beatable and get some more rounds in and acclimate to this division. I think yes. I think that's a wise move.
And I think Sampson's going to be like, oh, what an A side, and Sampson don't realize, man, that he's not going to be the A side because the fight's likely going to take place in Saudi Arabia. You know, and like I look at a lot of things. I think Bivol is going to be more of, I'm going to take my fights over the Saudis because the Saudis are going to pay me handsomely, even though I'm promoted by Eddie Hearn. I really think that if you look at it, if David's going to wind up being in position to fight the winner of Benavidez versus Bivol comes out, which I think he does because I think it's a little too soon for Benavidez to come back from this meniscus tear or something. I really think that the Bivol is the A side. Bivol's the A side. Like, Sampson's going to have to live with that. Hey, we're not fighting off PBC. Oh, you're going to fight off PBC. You're in a division where you gotta fight off PBC now because you're no longer the A side anywhere. So,
yeah, I hear you, Drew. Hey, Adi Mehdi says they probably need to test themselves against Buatsi or Yarde to see if they belong in the division. I 100% agree. Those kind of fighters, Buatsi and Yarde, to me, they're straight up contenders in that division. And even then, there was a guy, Richards, Drew, on the Saudi card a few weeks ago, light heavyweight Richards, who fought Buatsi before. He lost to the Irish guy that had moved. That guy can crack too at once. That he moved up to 175.
I look at it like this, Dave. I think Benavidez might have problems at Yard too. Like, you got to look at it. You got to look at all these guys in this division. These guys can move. These guys have footwork, and they possess power and everything, and they're gonna keep guys honest. And I think Benavidez, he doesn't have great footwork. He has maybe average at best footwork and everything, but like, he's a flat-footed guy. And I think that if guys are going to move around with their footwork, using their footwork in this fight, in their fight with Benavidez, it's going to be really hard for Benavidez to make the fight his fight. And like, yeah, style makes fights, but here's the thing. All these guys that I'm talking about, styles, is a big disadvantage for David Benavidez now because now he's fighting bigger guys. These are bigger guys.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter if he was fighting Caleb Plant because Caleb Plant didn't have power like that. But these guys do. And the styles make fight term goes to the other guy. Benavidez, this is not a good look for Benavidez. This is not going to be a division where David's going to dominate at. I think David's going to take at least a couple L's in this division. And I look at it as in Bivol's going to beat him. I think Bivol's going to easily beat David Benavidez. And I think, and I'll be honest, I'll look at it, I think Morrell will beat him. I think Morrell beats him. And I look at it like this: if in the next 2 years or year or two, I believe David Morrell will be the best light heavyweight in the division.
Well, Nando in the chat, he seems to agree with you. He said that David Morrell is the real beast in the division. And David Morrell, he's honestly been the boogeyman. And there's been a lot of talk about boogeyman. We're going to end the show with the so-called boogeyman of Puerto Rico that didn't turn out to be the boogeyman at all. And I had to eat that one this weekend because I was one of those people on that hype train, guys. I was definitely on the hype train for Subriel Matias. I want to send a big shout out to Keenan, who's new in the chat. Don't forget, guys, to hit that like because it's going to help our channel. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe because we want to get to a bigger audience and we want to bring you guys along for the ride. So, Chicano Prophet says 175 might be a thin division in a couple years' time. We'll see, man. With David Morrell joining the fray and all these exciting European fighters.
This was a wild.
I think, and even Ben Whitaker, who I talked about earlier in the show, Ben Whitaker, he might get his ass whooped eventually, but you know what? Like we have our friend here, Bruce Jazz Boxing and More. I like watching him because he's like a jazz musician improvising on the fly, man. Who doesn't like to watch a maestro, a virtuoso, his skill set just improvising shit on the fly? Like I don't see anybody else doing the stuff Whitaker does.
We didn't talk about the Tank Davis fight.
We're going to talk about that. And they're actually, you know what, right now somebody just dropped a really good comment here. Before we get into the Tank Davis, which was the main event, David Benavidez being the co-main, somebody said something where you brought up Caleb Plant, and Wiley Coyote says Caleb Plant should take a dump on Ryan Garcia. And I cannot not talk about Ryan Garcia this week because the guy's up to it again. Not only did a few weeks ago he'd say after Kambosos lost to Lomachenko, one of Drew's favorite fighters, he said, "I slept with your wife." He's back at it again. Everybody knows that Jordan, his wife, is one of the most respected female broadcasters on Fox Sports. And here we go again with the same bullshit nonsense coming out this motherfucker's mouth saying, "I slept with your wife." Even using the most derogatory language. You guys saw it on social media what he said about the dude's wife. And he shows up with, 5 of the biggest NFL linebacker security guards you can. Dude, he couldn't even get to him but throw a beer at the guy. Dude, stand behind your shit and fight him right then and there. You know what I'm saying? Like, Caleb Plant has all the right to do anything at this point to Ryan Garcia if you talk like that. You know what? You said you're going to fight Errol Spence. You'll fight this guy. You'll fight Caleb Plant. Fight him. Let him get his chance. Let him get his licks.
Here's the issue. When you talk about, protecting the children, saving the children, but then you go in someone's DM saying you fucked their wife or something, man, you need some fucking serious help. And you really need to get your ass kicked. Like, on some real shit, man. You talk so much fucking shit. I'm going to be honest. I think some of these fucking arenas should ban Ryan Garcia from watching fights.
Yeah, he just doesn't have a low. Like, I know you say you're a Christian, but like, if you're really a Christian, dude, there's just places you don't stoop. I don't get the guy, man. I'm so tired of talking about him, but he keeps himself in the public eye. He's a villain. Some kind of, I don't know what kind of Christian life you're living when you want to be the villain, man, but it gets more and more disgusting. And we're all awaiting for his judgment day in the sport. He jumped in the ring, Drew. He was there, right there. He's at World Series of Poker probably as we speak, gambling away his fortune. And he jumps in the ring after Tank because he's been buddying up with Tank. You know Tank has been defending him since day one with the steroid scandal. Yeah. And he wants that rematch. But there's a lot of people that deserve a opportunity to fight Tank Davis because the truth be told is Ryan Garcia can't even make 140 pounds. He cannot make 140 pounds. He hasn't made, the last time he fought Tank, we saw what happened when he melted down at 136. That fight will never materialize, guys. And there's probably, I'm confident there's a suspension coming this way. If you guys have been keeping up on the Neutro Science Labs, whatever lawsuit that's coming back out of his way, we'll keep you guys afloat. But talking about Tank Davis as the face of boxing, Drew, the lightweight division is now down. We got a new champion from Ukraine who upset Navarrete, the Vaquero. We got him. You got Shakur Stevenson, finally, a champion at 135. You picked up the vacant title. And you got Lomachenko, who just went to Australia. When everybody's riding Lomachenko, he gets back in the mix. He's a world champion again. And years back, people were saying, come on, Tank, fight Lomachenko. And now all of a sudden today, Bob Arum says, we're going to finally make this fight happen. We got both people on the telephones. We got a unification almost about to happen. I got to ask you guys in the chat, and I'm going to ask Drew, does anybody of these fighters I just mentioned beat Tank Davis at lightweight? Because Drew,
Yes.
the Lomachenko. All right, guys, let's hear. Hold on, Drew. Let me put up the picture here. Let me cover my ugly face here, man. But this fight between Lomachenko, and I don't care how old Lomachenko is, he's arguably internationally one of the biggest names in boxing. It looks like it's on the fringes of happening. I'm very excited about this. Loma versus Tank Davis, the technician versus the ultimate counter power puncher. Can he win on the scorecards, or does he get knocked out like everybody else?
Let's be honest. This fight's not going to happen.
No?
No. You want to know why? If you look at it like this, if the fight was seriously going to be happening, Tank would have said, I want to fight Loma next, instead of saying that, I want to go back to the drawing board and everything. He would have immediately caught out Loma, or he would have caught Shakur. I think he had no attention. I don't think he had no intentions. He has no intentions of fighting Lomachenko. I think that if you look at that fight this past weekend, the strategy was the right strategy for Tank to use because of Frank Martin's inexperience and everything. But I think Tank took too many shots early on in the fight for that strategy to go.
Okay, his face was peppered up. We'll take that. He himself admitted he took a lot of shots early. He was letting Frank Martin get his shots off, that he had a lot of ring rust, and that was effectively his strategy. Let this guy, basically tire himself out. And he did get his face peppered up, Drew. But I'm reading right here, quote, okay, Lomachenko's up for the fight. Let's see here. Arum said that the meeting could easily take place this week because Tank Davis's team is in Las Vegas and Top Rank has a fight Friday night in Las Vegas with its WO featherweight champion, Rafael Espinoza. And that fight, guys, is this Friday night at the Fountain Blue, which that's going to be very exciting. Drew, he says this meeting of both camps can be taking place this week in Las Vegas to make this fight happen in the fall.
I'm going to be, let's look at it like this. I think Tank will be a victim of what what happened to Boo Boo. But here's the difference. Boo Boo was ducked. Tank ducked people back in the day. Boo Boo was being ducked. And Boo Boo was rated out to finally get a big fight when he was over 30. And you see the result of that. Benavidez destroyed him and everything. I think when Tank finally steps up to fight an elite level fighter, I think Tank will suffer the same fate. I think Tank will lose. And Tank will lose in a fashion that no one expects him to lose in, because he got used to fighting these soft touches all this time. He got used to fighting guys that they brung up in weight, or guys that were washed up, or Mexicans that would stay in front of him and try to bang with him in all these years. Tank is 30 years old now.
The chat is, hey, Drew, the chat is getting fired up here. We got all kinds of different opinions, and I appreciate all the different opinions. Chicano Prophet says, I think Loma is a bit too faded to pull it off. Sadly, he is in his late 30s now. I think mid-30s at least. I tend to agree with that. Sin City Syndicate says, Tank doesn't break down anybody. He's a counterpuncher. Facts. Who gives away rounds until an unskilled fighter makes mistakes, and Loma won't make those mistakes. Tank Davis is a counterpuncher, but he was pressuring Frank Martin this weekend, Drew. He was giving the mental pressure and started to walk him down, but he always gives away those early rounds. So, Drew, how does Loma pull off a victory when he's older, may not have the legs to move around? He's going to have to be at risk of getting countered in the later half of the fight. And I don't know if Loma can take those shots. I don't know. That vicious uppercut followed by that nasty left hand. I don't know if an older Lomachenko can take those shots, Drew. I really don't.
I'm sorry. Better footwork, better ring IQ, better discipline. And Loma can hurt Tank. And Tank struggles with smaller guys. It's been proven. Isaac Cruz.
Interesting you say that. Isaac Cruz, and I want to bring up Isaac Cruz because he's the only fighter, the only Mexican fighter, the only fighter in past 10 fights to actually go the distance. And he was technically even shorter, and he's now the 140-pound champion. When Ryan Garcia says, let's rematch, bitch, if there's anybody that deserves a rematch and is Mexican, it ain't Ryan Garcia, it's Isaac Cruz. Cliff Star, shout out to you for joining the chat. Appreciate you. Yes, I agree that Tank broke down, eventually walked down Frank Martin in the 8th round. Most of even Drew Evo right here said stoppage 6th, 7th, 8th round. He is a counterpuncher, and that's one thing I'm asking you guys in the chat. Because he's a counterpuncher and he doesn't necessarily like to be the guy taking the initiative. Even in the Rolly Romero fight, Rolly Romero was the guy doing all the initiating in the pocket, and almost all the exchanges, it was Rolly, right? So how do you beat a guy like that when you're the counterpuncher? Do you just wait for Loma to make the mistake, Drew? Or in your opinion, does Loma not make a mistake?
It's an issue, man. I just don't think, if you look at it, I think Tank's not going to fight him the way that these other guys fight, that he fights these other guys, because here's the thing. These other guys all have bad footwork and everything. These guys will look at, here's the thing.
Yeah, I kind of think Frank Martin, for a guy that started late, looked pretty good on his feet.
Let me tell you something. Frank Martin kept going to the ropes. Frank Martin kept going to the ropes, got told multiple times, stay off the ropes, dude. Just stay the fuck off the ropes. And he wouldn't do it. He did not. And the thing about it is, he thought he had him. And let's look at it like this. Loma will break him down. Let's look at it. Tank is not going to be able to wait on Loma long. He's not. And I'm really tired. Here's the thing: we got Loma hate on the chat. Like,
I don't know if they're hating on Loma.
Apparently, he don't think winning a big fight involves somebody beating two guys that were ranked in the top 5 pound for pound when he beat them both and dominated both of them.
Hey, the fact is, Drew, this fight should have happened 5 years ago. But if it's going to happen this fall,
happened 5 years ago. And I think if you're going to look at it like this, he's trying to do the Mayweather formula, waiting somebody out. But here's the thing: I think Tank rated himself too long out. I think, and there's a thing. You waited too long to fight the elite fighters, and you're gonna go and you're gonna crumble when you step up finally. You waited too long to step up. I don't think this fight's gonna happen. I think Barancek fight with Tank happens before the Loma fight.
Now, I'm glad you brought up Barancek, because he's also an Olympic team member. He was on the same Olympic team as Lomachenko. They're basically stablemates. He did pick up that title against Navarrete. He is available for a unification, and I think no doubt in my mind that Tank Davis knocks out Barancek, and that would give him 2 belts. But if the fight with Lomachenko happens first, I'm all for it if they get the conversation going, because the only fight at 135 that stinks is a potential matchup with Shakur Stevenson. Okay, I already know the outcome of Barancek. That's why the only fight I really want to see Tank Davis is unification is with Loma. If he could clean out the division, that's great. But I just have full confidence that Shakur Stevenson, no matter what, would stink up that fight. I don't know who wins that fight.
Cliff, don't say Loma can't hurt Tank, because you get hit with the right shot, you're gonna get hurt.
But I don't think it's gonna be Shakur, man. Shakur is way too pillow-fisted.
But Nando, you're so confident, bro, that Tank beats Loma. You better bet that $20 when I tell you to bet that $20. And then when you lose that $20 to me, I want you to come on here and I want you to acknowledge me and I want you to acknowledge me with some fucking passion.
Let's all keep tuned this week. If Bob Arum says everything is going to come correct, we're going to have some idea whether or not they sit at the table with Tank Davis's team, which now features, what is it? That's the big news too, guys. I want to just run this by you guys. Ellerby is now going to be in charge of Tank Davis's promotional event, right? Promotional company. He's the new CEO.
Hope he isn't.
He's supposed to be the new CEO. He's leaving PBC and Al Heyman. So shout out to Leonard Ellerby if he makes this fight happen with Bob Arum. I think it's the best fight in the division. And if I was a personal advisor to Tank Davis, I would say fight Baranchyk and get that title. And then obviously fight Loma, whichever order. Avoid Shakur Stevenson. I don't think Shakur Stevenson is good. I don't think it's worth your trouble. That fight stinks all the way around. Everybody knows you get in a fight with Shakur and you're in for a bad fight. So what I would advise is the rematch, Drew, because I know that Pitbull Cruz wants that rematch. And if I was Tank Davis, I would unify as many titles as possible. If Shakur moves up and vacates that title, wonderful. Then become undisputed. Put that marker. And then rematched who I just mentioned. I want to see that rematch with Pitbull Cruz at 140, Drew.
But I don't know if anybody's seen this. I saw when I was looking at the Rayan, Martin and Tank Rayan, I thought they both looked weight trained.
Did you guys? Damn, I don't have that picture, but somebody sent me the funniest picture. I don't know if Jose will compete that. So here,
Tank was 2 pounds under the limit.
It looked like Frank Martin went to go rehydrate in the hospital. Frank Martin looked bad.
They both look weight trained to me, and that's why I'm like this to myself. I don't think Tank's gonna be at 135 much longer.
And that's all good, Drew. Listen, get the Loma fight off the table. There's 100% certainty, and I guarantee, is that Tank Davis, who already showed us he could knock out, who stopped Mario Barrios, the WBC interim champion at welterweight. Now, guys, I stood next to Mario and his friend Brian Mendoza, 154-pound fighter. I stood next to Mario Barrios. On a good day, I used to be 5'11". I'm telling you, Mario Barrios has wider shoulders than me. This guy he's got a fucking build on him. Mario Barrios is a big dude, and I can't believe Tank Davis, 5'5.5", stopped him. Tank Davis's power will carry to 140. And with the 140 division being so crazy, Drew, and we're going to move on to the Liam Paro fight, I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure Tank Davis, he already picked up an interim title from Mario Barrios. I think he can do some damage at 140. I think
we can see Tank move up maybe from one fight to 140. I think they both looked weight trained, and I think Tank had a problem making 135. Like, I think he kind of overtrained a little bit to make that and be 2 pounds underweight, and he looked weight trained too. But the thing about it is, him taking that long for Frank Martin and taking shots could be contributing to the weight drain and the rust of, and that's another issue with Tank. And that's why I think when he steps up to finally fight someone in the league, he's gonna get beat, is because he's too goddamn inactive. When you're too goddamn inactive the way you are, like this was a 420-day layoff and everything. I just don't see, like when you're not fighting much and everything and you're stepping up finally, I think that's a bad sign. And to tell you the truth, PBC guys fighting with top-ranked guys isn't really the good recipe for PBC. PBC hasn't really won a lot of fights when it comes to fighting top-ranked guys. But like, and another thing, Zepeda, let's look at it like this. I think if you're going to look at it, I think the dark horse is a Zepeda fight for Tank. And I think Tank destroys Zepeda.
Interesting. I did want to move on from 135. You guys have been making some great points here. Cincinnati Syndicate says, Dave, get down on 135. You'll get knocked out too. Bro, I can't even get down to 200 in my fucking 40s, let alone 135. I weighed 135 as a sophomore in high school. All right. And I'm glad you guys brought up William Zepeda. He is the dark horse in the division. I saw him fight at Cosmopolitan this year. He's got the record for the most punches thrown by a lightweight, and let's not write him off the table. That is a great fight for Tank Davis, but one that I don't think he's going to entertain simply because Zepeda doesn't have a title. Now, Drew, if Oscar at Golden Boy can get William Zepeda a shot against Baranchyk, It's no doubt in my mind, unlike Navarrete, he stops Baranchek.
I don't know, Dave. I don't know. I see. I don't think he stops him. He may beat him, but I don't think he stops him. Like I think
Nando seems to think,
gonna,
though. By the way, who's drop it in the chat? William Zepeda is fighting. I forgot who he is fighting. Put it in the chat.
Nah, Zepeda has a worse chance than Loma because, tell you the truth, he'll get timed easily by Tank.
Now he throws a lot of punches, which leaves himself open to all the wonderful opportunities to get countered.
Easily by Tank.
And he's been dropped. You guys remember William Zepeda was dropped once, but because of his high output, I don't know, man. That high output gave him a lot of trouble when it was little Isaac Cruz. Maybe William Zepeda does have a better chance. Okay, he's fighting Giovanni Cabrera. That's a solid fighter, actually. Giovanni Cabrera was a solid opponent.
But here's the thing. We're about to get to that. We're about to get to that fight and everything. I want to talk about the new guy that was in here, and he said Matias was robbed. I want to throw some knowledge to me. Tell me why he thinks Matias was robbed in this fight.
Well, we don't have the phone line, but that is pretty wild theory. Let's move on to it.
Type it in chat, Dave.
Yeah, you can put it in the chat. Let's talk about that, Drew, because I was a huge fan of Matias, and you know, I still like the guy and whatnot, especially how he was gracious in his defeat. Now, we talked about it on the roundtable last week, and unanimously, it seemed that almost everybody, I don't remember if anybody on the 6-person panel predicted Liam Paro would pull off an upset, but we talked about the curse of having your homecoming fight. We saw that Regis Prograis in his fight in New Orleans, his homecoming, when he was the 140-pound champion, he looked like absolute shit, and some people thought he didn't even deserve the victory, and we all speculated, could this happen to Matias in Puerto Rico in front of all his friends, family, and countrymen and legendary fighters like Felix Trinidad? Could it happen to him? Could he have a fucking performance like that? Could he absolutely choke under the pressure? And I said, no fucking way. Devin Haney killed it in San Francisco. Devin Haney's homecoming was a fantastic performance. Matias is going to show Paro that Paro is not world class. How did I get suckered into thinking that Matias was what he was, Drew? Basically, man, it's like I got fooled big time, Drew, and I didn't see all the flaws.
But you know what? I told people to put a bet. If for the fun of it, put a bet on Power to beat Matias.
Now that's the fight I should have put $100 on, because I saw Calix Boxing brag. Shout out to Calix Boxing bragging about that. He did make that bet, Drew. This guy fought a perfect, smart game plan. One thing that I never really put emphasis on is the fact that Matias has some of the worst footwork in the 140-pound division and the worst footwork of any champion at 140. Drew, he literally squares up and just kind of like bumbles his feet in. Paro was using, as a southpaw, he executed the jab perfectly from round one. And when he got into distance, I'm talking about Matias, Paro was using his strength and just shoving him off, doing the push, creating the necessary distance to tee off on Matias. It was perfect. And then when that didn't work, remember, Matias is dangerous on the pocket. He's vicious in the pocket. Well, that didn't happen this Saturday. When that wasn't working, he simply clinched. He clinched where necessary. He never let Matias get off. Dude, if I didn't see Matias, it looked like he was drunk. Every time he would stumble back, boom. Paro was ready to tee off. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Move. 1, 2, 3. It wasn't like a masterclass performance. It didn't look like he was the baddest motherfucker at the 140-pound division. Matias looked like shit. That's all it was. I've never seen Matias look like shit. Was he always this fighter? Was he? Because I thought he was the boogeyman. I thought he was nobody beat him. I didn't think Teofimo could beat him. I didn't think Isaac Cruz could beat him. I thought Devin Haney would get knocked out. Bro, this Saturday, Devin Haney would have beat Matias. No doubt about that. No doubt Devin Haney would have outboxed Matias.
I'll look at, first of all, I'm gonna have to put Nas the Nord real quick because Nord is acting low IQ today in this chat. His best wins, Nord, would a top 5 pound for pound Gary Russell Jr. and a top 5 pound for pound Regendale. So, Nord, I think you really need to stop the low IQ in today.
Okay,
And
now
do the
we went
research.
back. We went back. Shout out
But
to Nerd for getting
let's
into
get back
it.
to
When I
Matias
get
thing.
let's get to this
Let's get
fight,
back to
Drew.
Matias thing because I'm done with him now because I gave him knowledge, and he needs to do his own research because I just stem in the right direction. Because the dude don't know what the hell he's talking about. I had to put some knowledge to him. Even though I went a little overboard, called him low IQ, which is it true? It is true though, but I don't him do his own research and he can find out. But let's go back to it. The plan that they had was to pressure Paro and stop him late. Now, if you're going to do that plan, I think the only way to find out if it's going to work, if you don't hurt that dude within the first 4 rounds, you need to abandon that game plan. Because if you're doing that game plan, you got to have a soul guaranteed that you're going to stop that. If you're going to hurt that dude and stop that dude. And I think, if I was his coach, I would have told him after 4 rounds, you're not hurting him. He's not hurt at all. You're not hurting him. We need to think we need to put up plan B now. We need to do plan B now. And the thing about it is, if he's not hurting him, you gotta do plan B. You gotta go for broke. And you gotta knock this dude out. And the thing about it is, I think Pro fought a great fight. Fought the best fight he could against somebody like Matias. And like, if you look at it, I think Matias is a pressure fighter that has to pressure you, that has to oppose his will on you, and has to hurt you to be able to win fights. I don't think he's a guy that's going to win a decision against you. I think but if I was in his corner, once I knew he couldn't hurt Paro, I would have told him, yo, go for broke, dude. You're not gonna get a decision. And the thing about it is they waited too long to change the game plan, because it's like round 6, you could easily have it 6-0. You could easily have it 5-1, and if it was Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles watching a fight 4-2 at the time and everything, and you gotta tell him, yo, you're down 6. Let's look at it like this: he's down 6-0 in the cards. And you gotta tell this dude, yo, you gotta step up. You gotta win some rounds. You gotta knock this motherfucker out. And the thing about it is, he wasn't hurting him. So the thing about it is, you need to win rounds. You need to win enough rounds so we can persuade the judges to at least go for the draw, or at least someone probably gave you a round or two, and you have a chance at a decision. This dude had no fucking chance to win a decision. He just did it. I had it 1-6. I had it 115 to 112. That's because they took the point off Paro. I would add it 116. I had it 8-4. I think, if you look at it, Matias is a guy that has to develop pressure on you, and has to do a lot of like pressure to get his way. He has to not only do that, but he has to hurt you early in the fight. And I believe it wasn't meant to be. He wasn't able to hurt this dude. And I think once we found out after 4 rounds he wasn't able to hurt this dude, I think it was smooth sailing. I don't think and the dude was disciplined too. The dude was very disciplined.
You're talking about Paro.
Yeah,
a disciplined fight. Very disciplined, yeah.
Disciplined and everything. And people could say, they had a 1-point deduction and everything, which it was questionable. That was a questionable point deduction in my view and everything. But I think he's a problem in this division.
Interesting, Drew.
And I really think he causes Devin problems. I think he causes Teofimo problems. I think, Isaac Cruz, I think he causes problems to him too. I think he beats Jack Catalog and everything. And I think he beats Josh Taylor. I think this dude really was someone that, somebody. I think this was the X factor of the division. If you looked at it, I had this dude as the X factor of the division.
Interesting.
And it just proves that he's an elite fighter in this division.
Oh, no doubt that he's world-class level. Let me get back to the chat really quick. Adi Medi says, I think Matias got caught up in the moment. Tito Trinidad in front of his home crowd, too much pressure. He actually did succumb to that pressure, the same type of pressure I think that Regis Prograis faced in New Orleans. And in this case, he didn't get the nod. He didn't deserve the nod whatsoever. And Nando Lamas also wanted to remind us that Paro got the stoppage in San Francisco as well. That's right. You were probably
against
at that
Montana
fight.
Love.
That was against Montana Love, one of Matchroom Boxing's, most highly coveted prospects. He basically took that dude to school. Now, there's a few left-handers. Drew, you just brought up a few of them. There's some left-handers at 140 that really should all be undefeated. And the other two that did not get the nod is Sandor Martin. Sandor Martin, he got the big win over Mikey Garcia in Fresno, shocked the world.
Yeah, I thought he beat Teofimo.
A lot of people thought he beat Teofimo. That dude should be undefeated. Not only should he be undefeated, he should be a world champion at 140. Also,
Yeah.
Jack Catterall. Dude, Jack Catterall, in my opinion, got robbed in that first fight against Josh Taylor. When Josh Taylor had all 4 titles, we literally could be looking at Jack Catterall as the undisputed junior 140-pound champion. Jack Catterall should be undefeated too. All 3 of those are very solid southpaws. I'm excited.
I got having gas tank issues.
Yeah, I'm excited for Sandor Martin to get his shot at Devin Haney. Devin Haney's going to have to redeem himself. He got to hold on to that WBC 140 championship. He don't have easy work with Sandor Martin, man. He's got to get back his confidence that he could outbox.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest with everybody here. Yo, guys, let's look at it like this. If you're going to make a bet, I would bet Sandor Martin to beat Devin Haney.
It's wild. It's wild. This division is wild. I can't make any predictions.
If you look at it, Dave, Devin Haney, these guys are pure boxers. But look at it like this. Sandor Martin, I believe, is more disciplined than Devin Haney. Because if you look at it, one of them's got to budge and be the lead man and try to go at the other one. Sandor Martin is an excellent counterpuncher. And I really think that's what separates him and Haney. And I think he beats Devin Haney. I can really see him winning against Devin Haney. I'll put a bet on that, too. I'll go on DraftKings and put a bet on Sandor Martin to beat Devin Haney. But you want to know someone that impressed me, but he didn't get the nod this weekend. But he impressed me because he's more than a knockout artist. Gary Antron Russell.
He impressed you with the loss, not getting.
He impressed me in a loss because he can go to 412, and he actually didn't look like he was tired, and he actually fought a good fight. It's just the other guy. He fought in my eyes, I thought was a better fighter, better counterpuncher. That's what got him beat, getting counterpunched and everything. He learns that. He works on that. We might have a guy that can be a champion in that division.
I always thought, I see Nando's comment, I put it up here. Yeah, I was never high on Gary Antron Russell. With the guy fighting once a year, it was very hard to see him getting a world title opportunity. But let's talk about Alberto Puello really quickly, guys. I know we're running through the 140-pound division. Puello, who trains with Salas here in Las Vegas, the great Cuban trainer, Drew, he's still technically undefeated. He was the WBA champion, and he only had that title removed after winning it for a pretty serious offense, guys. It was for enclomiphene citrate. Enclomiphene citrate is a fertility drug that boosts your testosterone by 1.5 to 2 times your natural limit. He said he needed to do it to get pregnant, and it is something that doctors in the U.S. will prescribe for fertility treatment. And he did, I hear, successfully have a baby. But it's a product that increases your testosterone by 2 times, so you might as well be on anabolic steroids. the WBA did the right thing in stripping Alberto Puello of the WBA 140-pound championship. That being said, I didn't have him favored to win against Gary Antoine Russell, man. I always thought Gary Antoine Russell was a beast, and I didn't think much high of Puello. So shout out to Puello, undefeated, former world champion, now testing clean. Somebody that really is, I saw him, he's got the height, he's got the guy could still compete at the highest level. I think he's going to be a threat to all of the champions at 140.
And Dave, and he was part of the reason why Wally was champion.
He's the reason why Raleigh became the champion. Exactly. By the way, today I was watching Pro Box. Polly and Timothy Bradley and Polly Malignaggi said, bring back Ismael Barroso. And do I got that picture, man? Barroso, the Venezuelan guy who almost became world champion, who should have been the WBA world champion.
Let's look at it. He should have been world champion.
Bring back
Barroso. Never got that belt.
Back Barroso.
And thank God Dave lied to Wally so he could get a conversation with Wally going. I remember when Tank fucked shit over. Oh yeah. Good stuff. Good point, Dave. That's Dave knows how to bullshit somebody to get them in the conversation.
All right, guys, I mentioned this Friday. I'm sure there's other fights, but I just want to bring this one up. It's happening at the Fontainebleau. It's now the second fight that is happening in Las Vegas at the brand new Fontainebleau. It's a brand new shiny casino. And Drew, this one features Rafael Espinosa, featherweight champion, who did the unthinkable and one of the best performances I thought of last year as upset of the year against Robeisy Ramirez. Robeisy Ramirez, the gold Cuban medalist. They exchanged knockdowns, Drew, in that fight. And in the 12th round, he just rallied, man. He almost finished. He almost had the guy completely out on his feet. Rafael Espinosa, nearly 6 feet tall, featherweight. The featherweight is my favorite division. Obviously, everybody wants to see if Inoue is going to move up to featherweight, Drew, but you got Rafael Espinosa from Guadalajara. You have fighters like El Bronco Lara. By the way, guys, the guy that is fighting Rafael Espinosa, his name is Sergio Chirino. And all you need to know about his opponent is that El Bronco Lara already effed that dude up. So this is almost a shoe win for me. He's getting a second opportunity, I believe, at a world title. This guy is getting dropped by Rafael Espinosa. Will we ever see a unification? I just found out it looks like, let me see here. Coming up next month, there's a guy from Vegas will be fighting the other 126-pound champion. And our friend of the show from Salinas, Ruben Villa, he doesn't seem to be getting a shot. But that featherweight division is hot right now, Drew. Top Rank has 2 of the world champions. And who's the other champion who just got what's his name from the UK? Love that.
Nick Ball?
Nick, yeah, that division's on fire right now. I welcome to see Nick Ball come to the U.S. and fight any of them. El Venado Lopez.
I'll be honest, I think Nick Ball might beat them all.
Nick Ball versus El Venado Lopez. Let's get that unification next.
That dude's going to be a hard motherfucker to beat.
Nando says the white pitbull cruise is Nick Ball, man. Nick Ball versus El Venado Lopez. I want to see it. They're the same height. Whoever wins that fight, I'd love to see a unification with Rafael Espinosa. That's basically all I got for this weekend, man. It was a hell of a weekend. It's going to be hard to compete with that one. Things are hot as shit in Las Vegas. If you're coming to Las Vegas for that fight this weekend, guys, know it's going to be 110 degrees on Friday. So make sure you drink a lot of beer and you drink a lot of water. All right, Drew, any final thoughts on this weekend, man? Any of the subjects? Anything we touched upon?
Nah, I just gotta. I looked at it like this, and it was an entertaining weekend. I look at it; it was an entertaining weekend. But I want to bring up something. I recently ventured into starting somewhat my own business and everything. And if anybody's a fan of Funko Pops, collectible action figures or anything, or old gaming systems, I ventured into that market now and everything. And I'm learning more and more every day about it. And I'm trying to be more disciplined on looking at life and everything, because the older I'm getting and everything, and doing this and everything, learning as I will go and everything, for how long has it been? Like 5 years, Dave?
Right,
Since
yeah.
we started this, and then I'm looking outside the box more at other things, looking at life lately and everything. I just seen that, shit can get better and is getting better at some levels and everything. And you still got those some people that want to bring you down and everything because they're down on their own luck and everything. They don't want to do nothing to get better at themselves and everything. But
Drew, you know the cycle. If you ain't got no haters, you ain't doing shit right. Hey,
that's right. That's right.
Thanks to everybody that's new, that's joining us. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, hey, Buds86, thank you for dropping that. Yeah, that's going to be on ESPN Plus. I think it's $9 a month. Maybe you can get a free trial. Make sure you hit that subscribe so you guys make sure, and the notification so you know when the next Shoe Shine episode is, which is generally Monday and Thursday nights. I'm Dave in the 7-2. Thank you to everybody that joined us. If you don't mind, drop a comment. Let us know in the comments afterwards. It helps the engagement. Is there anybody that beats Tank Davis? Drew seems to think Loma's going to pull off the win. Do you think so? Do you agree? Who do you think takes the 126 division? Who do you think is going to ultimately reign on top of the 140-pound division? Until next week, I'm Dave in the 7-2. Peace out, everybody. Thanks, Drew.